Class conduct. This is a presentation designed to assist you in understanding what is the proper etiquette in class conduct, whether it's a virtual class, a traditional class, or even an ITV class. So let's get into our agenda and take a look at this class conduct. We'll talk a little bit, as I just alluded to, about the traditional classroom, the virtual classroom, the ITV classroom, the global classroom, and then how you address your instructor or the person that may be a guest speaker within the classroom environment. And then what may be one of the most important pieces, representation. So let's get right into it. The traditional classroom really is based upon understanding that there's an environment here where people are trying to learn. So when people are talking or they're being disruptive with their behavior, this does not allow people to be able to learn. And so we don't think about how that disruption is impacting others. We normally are thinking of it in a more selfish way of something we want to be able to do. So we really don't want to allow any type of disruptive or talking behavior in the classroom if it's impeding the ability to learn. Now, there's always opportunities to talk and communicate and articulate, but what we're talking about is the disruptive aspect of that. The college or institution that you're a member of as a student has specific rules and guidelines. Become familiar with those right off the bat because they are applicable in all of these classrooms. Students are responsible for any missed work in the event of an absence. So it is not the instructor's responsibility to get that information to you. It's your responsibility to find out not only what that was, but to know how to ask for it and then make sure that you get those or get that work that was missed back into the instructor's hands in the event that you do have an absence. Laptops in the traditional classroom are allowed, but keep in mind for this class, you may have additional work to do as a result of laptops being used. And what I mean by that is that you may be taking notes and you may be asked to forward those notes. So the laptops are not to be used for gaming or other purposes. They're actually used to help you in the classroom and assist you in the learning process. Be on time. You have to be prepared before you get into these courses. So there's usually reading that needs to be done. There's definitely videos that have to be reviewed as a function of the lectures. So this participation that you are graded on is based upon how well you have prepared yourself prior to class and being ready to conduct class in a good fashion. The virtual classroom doesn't have a lot of differences, but there are a few nuances. One of the ones that comes up on a consistent basis is when people are posting their business or unrelated class items into the virtual classroom world. And this is something, again, we don't want to do. We want to be able to keep that as a virtual learning environment, not one where people feel that they can blur the lines between business and education. Respect your peers in the virtual classroom is in the same fashion that you would in a traditional classroom, and know that all the traditional classroom rules and guidance apply here as well. Respect that learning environment. Just as you would in a traditional sense. And here's a couple of rules that kind of come up on a regular basis. Do not write in all caps. That's not proper. It's not right cap. A lot of learning in the virtual world, and what I mean by that is that we're bringing in unrelated items and work ethic and etc. into a virtual classroom and trying to make them work, and that's not the case. The virtual world, from a classroom standpoint, in some cases can be more challenging and more difficult than the traditional classroom. One other little tidbit, read your peers' posting. So whether it's a forum, a chat, an assignment, what have you, that you have exposure to, read their posting before you post your own. So let's shift gears to the ITV classroom, which is unique. Within the ITV classroom, it's important to understand that the dynamics are a little bit. Food and bridge are not allowed here by any technology, and we have it there that's electrically based, and it's not conducive to that environment. This talking and disrupt behavior, because you have remote sites involved, can be even more disruptive. So that's not something that we want to be able to do. The college rules and guidelines are still in adherence, and then students again are responsible for in the event of an absence. And one of the things that we see in the ITV classroom is that we ask you to hit the button. So there's a button somewhere close to you in front of you that allows you to not only participate, but for your classmates, whether they are remote to you or they're in front of you, to hear exactly what it is you have to say that may be applicable to the topic, and more importantly, it is important to the discussion that the class is having. Don't feel intimidated by that. This is an opportunity for you to take advantage of. So a little bit on the global classroom. You have exposures, or at various times during the course of the semester, we may have exposures to different people who have different learning styles, languages, cultures. So again, we have to respect that. And then you'll get additional guidance on how and what to do. But normally we use first names only in regard to that, just for the safety of all involved. We want to speak clearly, and we want to be thoughtful in our speaking and our articulation. Group work may be a little more challenging, just because we're working through some of those differences we have to try to figure out what are our similarities. And then we want to think before we speak. We're looking to try to build rapport here. That's first and foremost, and ask for clarification if we don't understand. This should be an enjoyable opportunity based upon not just the challenge that may present, challenges that present themselves here, but more importantly, in learning something that you may not have been exposed to before. The global classroom is a unique classroom because it can stand alone, or it can be an overlay to the other classrooms that we mentioned in this particular video. Now, when you're addressing your professor or your instructor, you address them by Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. And or professor. Addressing them by their first name is not appropriate in this classroom. Email, identify who you are, clearly state what you need, and then be concise for every correspondence, because if you have an email tag that doesn't identify who you are, or you have certain smartphone devices that don't give you the trailer of messages that were presented prior to that, you're not able to identify who you are and what it is that you may need in the way of help. Voicemails, identify who you are, clearly state what you need, and then be concise for every message that is sent. And then smartphones and devices, tablets and etc. They don't make you necessarily smart. These devices and tools are technology driven, and the design is to assist you. You need to learn how to use them first before you go over and make them a primary method of communication for you. So keep these in mind. Now, representation. So think of it in terms of you are representing yourself as a student. You need to treat your peers and fellow students in a professional and courteous manner, just as you would want to be treated yourself. Laugh with everyone, but laugh at no one. Because that would not only be disrespectful, but you would not want to be in that position. You do want to be responsible for your own learning in this process, and you come to class prepared. Doesn't matter if it's ITV, it's virtual, it's traditional, it's global. Each and every class, you have to be prepared in order to get the most out of the class, and then figure out how you can enhance your grade opportunity by your participation in the class. Do not impede on others in the class from learning, as I alluded to earlier. And what I mean by that is sometimes you might feel compelled to want to try to answer every question if you knew the answer, or you're cutting people off while they're speaking, not being considerate of others, arguing versus communicating. Okay, we don't want to impede others. It's not necessary for you to try to do everything up front in the first week or month of the class. It's more to throttle yourself in a way that allows you to have an equal and balanced, fluid representation throughout the course of the class. You should have questions at this point. And so take the time to make sure that you understand what's expected of you in the way of working in this realm that's a little bit different. And we look at classroom and course conduct. And if you have questions, feel free to get back with me. Here's your thought for the day. A safe learning environment is everyone's responsibility.